Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Everything Real Estate, episode 24. Special guest, we have Greg Clark. He focuses on foreclosures. I'm going to let him introduce himself real quick.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Greg Clark here from Memphis, Tennessee. Been in Sub 2 for a number of years now, pre-foreclosure specialist and door knocker.
I love it, man. What made you get into that?
But real estate in general or pre-foreclosures?
Pre-foreclosures. What made you pick that niche?
Well, pre-foreclosures, man. It's honestly, when I got started, it was really tough to get a deal. When I first got started in real estate, I actually did a flip in a house that I was renting, and there was a tree that fell down in the backyard, and the landlord wanted to sell the house, and I accidentally stole another investor's deal because I had long-standing rapport with the seller. So that's how I stumbled in my first deal. But I actually got that deal done, and I was like, man, I made a decent amount on it. I was like, man, let's go buy another one. And I found out how hard it was to find another deal. And so like I did bandit signs and driving for dollars and like all this other stuff. And what I found out was, I think it was back in 2020, I did um, Max Maxwell's deal. I think it was his mastermind, We Live, and he was talking about tax sales and foreclosures, and I learned a good bit about that. And then what I found out was like in Tennessee, the foreclosures they go like really quickly. In my state, like a lot of other states, like Florida, California, sometimes it can take upwards of like 2 years to foreclose on somebody. Here in Tennessee, it's like 4 to 6 weeks, and so
Oh,
there's
wow.
a lot of people that need a lot of help in a very short amount of time. So it's just the deals are abundant when it comes
Right.
down to
I know.
foreclosures.
I know in Texas we have them every Tuesday or Thursday. I forgot which day. So is yours just spread out? They're just random auction dates all throughout the month?
Yeah, man. So like in Texas, it's like the first Tuesday of every month. Y'all have an auction down there, like first Tuesday every month. And so like that's it's beneficial for like investors as well as sellers because like if you get an auction like postponed, you know, the day after the auction or like halfway through the month and like they reinitiate that auction, like it doesn't start until the next first Tuesday of the month. So like it'll buy like when it's a 30-day postponement, sometimes it'll end up being a 45-day postponement down there, 50-day postponement. Whereas
I
like
love.
here, it's like 30 days on the dot. So like we in Tennessee, you can foreclose like any day. It can be like Monday, it can be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. As long as it's a business day, bro, they can initiate that foreclosure.
Man,
So
that's
yeah,
crazy.
Tennessee don't play, man. Tennessee don't play.
So we'll start at the basics. How do you find your foreclosures
How
or
we found
foreclosures
them?
in general? Sorry.
Yeah. How we found them here is like there's a like so a lot of people don't understand this. Like when they're trying to invest or I hate I don't know, man. It's like it's investing in foreclosures. It's such a bad like terminology or bad like way to say it. I don't like saying investing in foreclosures. I like saying like when you go after foreclosures to help the homeowner because like it's all about service. Like at the end of the day, like you have to solve a problem for the homeowner to be able to go in and get that deal of that property. Like there's a trade-off, right? Like somebody's about to lose their house, they're in a sticky situation, and I'm going in and like helping them out. And so like how you market to those homeowners to let them know that you're there to help them is you have to know the laws of the state. And laws of the state here in Tennessee, it's like 120 days. That's a federal law before they can initiate a foreclosure. And then also, like here in Tennessee, they have to post it in the paper, I think 3 consecutive weeks before the actual auction date. And so like it's a law they have to post it in the paper. So if you go straight to whatever county that you're in, there's publication that has the foreclosure notices in there. Usually they're online, like the actual like publication is online, and so you can just go get the foreclosure data there, and then from there you can market to them.
Right. And that's mostly because the data from the county is always the fresh. You don't want to go to PropStream and batch leads, right? Because it's
Yeah,
it's
no,
it's
man. You go to
faster.
some of those other sites, man. It's the third party aggregators, and so like it takes them a minute to actually get the data. I mean, just like if you look at Zillow, and look at some of the houses that close, like Zillow sometimes will be faster than PropStream on the closing of a house. So like we closed on one a couple of weeks ago, looked it up on Zillow. It was on there like already in I think it was like in a week and a half. And then prop streaming it, like it's still not listed on there. Sometimes it'll take a month for prop stream to get the information, and like it's fine if it's like one of these places like Florida or California that it takes forever to foreclose on somebody, but in Tennessee, like 4 to 6 weeks, like bro, it's not gonna cut it. Like about the time you get to the prop stream and looking up foreclosures on prop stream, like the auction's already happened and the deal's not even there anymore, right?
Yeah.
And so
And
like
when
we
you
go
call them, they're just mad because they already lost their house, right?
yeah, or they won't answer. A lot of people say like my house is not in foreclosure, like whatever. Most of the time they don't answer. But yeah, we go straight to the county. Well, like I said, I mean you don't even have to go to the county here. You can look online, and it's in a publication. Like you can be in Egypt and look up like Memphis foreclosures, and you can find them online because they post them in a paper that's a free paper. So
Love it. What are some common mistakes people should avoid when if they want to focus on foreclosures? What are some common pitfalls?
common pitfalls. Um, Man, I think one of the main things is like people always approach homeowners that are in foreclosure by like trying to buy their house. I think that's a common thing. Like we don't approach how much like when we're marketing to them. So it depends on what kind of marketing you're doing. If you're reaching out to the homeowner, um, and it's outbound marketing versus like inbound marketing. So like inbound marketing, of course, you want to market in a way it's like, we could buy your house and say you're for foreclosure, or we'll just buy your house, right? But if you're reaching out to that homeowner who's in that situation, I would say probably about 80% of people that you talk to want to stay in their homes, And most people like when they talk to them, they're like, hey, I buy houses, or do you want to sell your home? And most people are just like super turned off by it. And so I think you get a better, you stand a better chance of getting a deal out of it if you approach them from like a help standpoint and a conversational standpoint of like what are you trying to accomplish, and just kind of leading them down the path to showing them their options in that situation. Because a lot of homeowners, man, they're just like so emotional when they're in a situation where their house is about to get taken from them. And there's just like a multitude of emotions going on. A lot of people just can't think logically. And so it's like you come in and you kind of give them a little bit of a helping hand by like, hey, look, like I know you can't think straight right now, but here's like 12 different options that you could utilize to stop the foreclosure. And you just happen to be like one or two of those options. That's
Right.
one of the biggest things that people make a mistake. A lot of people, it comes off as like rude or abrasive. It's like, yeah, I'm an investor. I can solve a problem for somebody by buying their house, but it's like, it's their delivery and like their approach that leaves a lot to be desired, right? I always tell people, man, like you can go to a nice restaurant and order like a $50 steak. It's got like the butter and trimmings, all that stuff that comes with it. But like, if you serve it to me on like this trash can lid that's got like trash all over it, maggots. Like if you present that steak to me like that, I'm gonna be like, no, bro, I don't want that. You know what I'm saying? But like if you present it to me on this like fancy plate with like glitter and like it's got like butter sizzling on it, and you know what I mean? Like the server that comes over is like really polite when she drops it off, and she's like, do you need anything else? And the plate's like 500 degrees and the butter's just like, and you're like, man, this is awesome, right? And so like it's all about the delivery and the presentation of it. And so I can present me being an option for that person to buy that person's house in a way that's very nice and not abrasive, and just coming from like a help or empathy standpoint.
Right. Like so if somebody was going to start cold calling foreclosures today, don't like give like a script. I don't agree with scripts and stuff, but what would be something a starting point for them to talk to them, like a little role play session real quick, like so they'll know what they should say and what they shouldn't say to trigger that
Yeah, I mean,
emotion.
honestly, man, I would say like I don't believe in scripts. I don't. So like we do a lot of door knocking, right? Not necessarily cold calling, but I talk to a lot of people that cold call too. Like I actually, like this morning, I had to drive up to Jackson, Tennessee because house we just bought, the seller left. Like I told her to set the thermostat to 70, and she was like, the batteries are dead. She texted me last night. It was like, I left the fireplace on. And I was like, what? So I had to drive up there and turn the fireplace off this morning. It was like an hour drive. But like that house right there, it actually came from a cold call. And like the person that reached out to him, and it was like, I try to tell people like scripts are fine for you doing a repetitive action. Like you actually do need a script. But like my approach is like you have like a script or an elevator pitch, for like the first sentence or like first like 10 or 15 seconds. And then like my goal in a conversation with somebody is to get to a normal conversation between me and that homeowner. Like I don't want it to be me and the homeowner. I just want it to be like Greg and Justin chopping it up, right? Like I want to get to a point where I'm having like just a normal conversation with a normal human being on a Saturday, right? But like you got to have like some kind of elevator pitch or something to like get them like reeled in, or get them like excited to talk to you, or keep them engaged talking to you. So like if you're cold calling somebody, like what most people do is they say, when you have cold callers or VAs, what it is, it's like, hey, I'm looking for Susie. And it's like, is this Susie? They're like, yeah. It's like, well, I was calling about your property on 123 Main Street. And it's like, I was, calling to see if you're interested in selling. Whereas like we would say something along the lines of like, I see your house is, in a difficult situation. Is like, has anybody reached out to you to explain to you what your options could be on possibly keeping your home? Right. And so like if we say something about like them possibly keeping their home, if we know 80% of people want to stay in their homes in the first place, like that conversation gets you further than trying to like ask them to buy the house. Right. And so like that's one of the things that we do a little bit different. But we primarily don't cold call. I have a lot of people that do outreach and stuff like that, and they call me to kind of handle those problems and stuff for them.
What do you see most people need, like out of all the different strategies to stop the auction, like loan mods, whatever? What do you see most people need that helps them? Which
What
one?
most
Which like strategy is like the best one to postpone it or stop it, or keep them in their home?
I mean, honestly, people do loan mods all the time, and people do bankruptcy. I see bankruptcy more so that it's loan mods and bankruptcy. That's the two things I see the most. And I mean, honestly, both of them suck. I'm just gonna be real with you. I mean, like the thing is about it, like you try to help somebody accomplish what they're trying to accomplish, which most people want to stay in their homes, but like I've seen so many people that get loan mods and end up right back in the same situation. As a matter of fact, I got a phone call probably about 2.5 hours with a homeowner who like they did a loan mod. I think it was earlier this year, or last year. They did a loan mod like earlier last year because we're in a new year now, and like their interest rate has already changed. Their interest rate has gone up. Their monthly payment is already ridiculous, and like they're back to being $30,000 behind, which they had already put a decent amount on the back end of their mortgage. And so like now they're in a situation where they can't do another loan mod. They don't want to file bankruptcy. And like one of the creative solutions that we use to take over those properties, which is subject to, it's looking very grim if we can do that because their arrears are so high. Whereas like if they wouldn't have done a loan mod before, we could have did the loan mod for them and just took over their payments at that point in time because we wouldn't have to pay a lot. And so like they're in a tough situation, but they really don't want to file bankruptcy. And so like the guy's contemplating a deed in lieu. And deed in lieu are some of the worst things you can do. Like you should sell the house, but if there's no option for you to sell the house, then it's like deed in lieu is still going to ding your credit, but it's not like as bad as a full blown, foreclosure. But I mean, I always tell people, man, like it sucks, but the best thing I would say probably 90% of the time, the best thing for that person or that homeowner to do in their situation is to sell their home. I mean, it's the part that sucks about it is the emotional component, right? It's the emotional component, but that's what makes us human. And I have a lot of love and respect for it. I've talked to so many different homeowners. Like I had one guy, he had filed bankruptcy twice, just trying to like hang on to his house. And he was a 65-year-old man. I sat on the front porch with this guy and he cried. He cried for an hour because he had filed bankruptcy twice. His financial situation didn't change. And he was in a situation where he was back up for foreclosure. And he was trying to find another place to live, and he couldn't because he had filed bankruptcy twice. He had destroyed his credit trying to hang on to his house, and he's like gonna get kicked out of anyways. He's gonna get evicted from it as soon as the foreclosure happens, but he can't sell it now because he has no equity, right? And his monthly payment and his arrears are just too high for anybody to take over, and he's just in this really like messed up situation, right? Like his repairs on his house are too high. It's like, man, I should have done something like a year and a half ago when I still had like at least a little bit of equity. And now I'm in this situation where I can't even find a place to live. And so I sit there and I try to give him some resources and some people around town that could, possibly, find, maybe like a rooming house or something like that, just so he has a roof over his head because he couldn't get into anything until he, rebuilds his credit. And that's the emotional component is the thing that screws people up. Like I had one lady, she straight up told me this house has been in her family for 3 generations and she was going to die before she let somebody take it. And I mean, I was like, man, I respect that. I respect it a lot. But at the end of the day, I think it was like a year and a half later, she still lost the house to foreclosure. Where she probably, at the time I talked to her, she probably could have put like 20 grand in her pocket if she sold the home, right? Sold the home, avoided the foreclosure, and clean up her credit, put some cash in her pocket, and move on to the next chapter of her life. You know, there's a documentary on Netflix. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's called I think it's like Madoff, the monster of Wall Street. It's a interesting documentary, but it's about Bernie Madoff. He was like a dude that did the big Ponzi scheme. Ran a Ponzi scheme in America for like 40 years, and like this guy hurt so many people, touched so many like families' wealth for like generations. Like this dude was like an evil man. Like it's terrible. But the documentary is actually very interesting because there's people that lost a lot of money when all this came to a head and you got found out. But these people are like investors, right? And so they understand like money, they understand like finances and different things like that. And so what I mean, I know at least 3 of the people they had on the documentary, like what the first thing they did was sold their homes, right? They sold their family home or they sold their extra home or whatever to keep from like destroying their credit or falling into a really bad situation. And what I find is a lot of people, you know, here and around town, they have this like really strong emotional component that keeps them, you know, attached to the house. And the conversation I try to have with them is like, you know, home is where the heart is. You know, this place is just sticks and bricks, you know. But it's tough.
Right. Do you feel that's a competitive market for foreclosures because everybody's trying to hit them?
But here in Memphis, man, I feel like everywhere is competitive when it comes down to foreclosures. I mean, these people are getting hammered by like all angles. They're getting called, they're getting texted. You know, people are knocking on the door. You know, people are sending mail to the house. You know, but it's not just investors. I mean, they have bankruptcy attorneys and all different other foreclosure services. Scam artists are reaching out to them, all kinds of stuff, man. And it sucks, and a lot of people get overwhelmed. And that's why, like we door knock, like here in Memphis, and door knocking is like super effective. It's so effective that like I'll probably say like 1 out of every 20 like conversations that we have, like in our CRM, like I'll go down and we'll have like 20 leads, and like I'll go down and there'll be a contract. And so like that's why door knock is so powerful, is because like the person that everybody's calling, texting, mailing, and doing all that stuff, it's like they can't get a hold of that person. But if you go straight to the door, you end up finding out that like I had one in Millington, which is a small suburb outside of Memphis. This was a month and a half ago. I went and sat down and talked to this couple who's I think they had like 2 weeks before their auction date, and we're sitting there having a conversation. I'm going over their options with them, and the guy, I asked him about some documentation because he had like tried to do a loan modification. I was like, oh, seriously? I was like, well, let me see, some of the paperwork, just to kind of get an idea of where you're at. And he like pulled out his phone. He was like, oh, wait, it's on my other phone. And so he pulls out this other phone and he takes the back off of it. He takes the SIMS card out and he puts it in his other. I was like, man, what are you doing? And he was like, man, honestly, this phone just gets blown up all the time. I get people call me like left and right. So he literally has a different phone to like actually like make calls and like do like daily life with. And he keeps the other phone to like, I don't know, man, like that's literally what people do. I was like, wow. But like the only reason we got in contact with the guys because we went and knocked the door, right? A lot of times you go knock the door, you find out that somebody's mom has passed away, and you're in contact with the heir. Like I had somebody that they called me yesterday. It was like, yeah, we're trying to get this foreclosure postponed. It's like, great, can you help us? And I was like, well, what's the situation? It's like, well, this lady, her mom passed away. It's like, sounds about right. Like at least about 30% of homes that are in foreclosure, it's usually it's a death in the family or something like that.
How would you go about, what's the difference between dealing with that, like probates? Is it a little tricky situation?
Probates, I mean, it can get a little tricky. I mean, because it's all about like who actually has interest in the property and if those people are like willing to sign or participate in the sale of the property. And so they can get tricky for sure. I mean, sometimes you'll have situations where, the family or the heirs are all on board. And sometimes you won't. I actually just lost a deal. I had this deal going, working on this deal since August. And the situation was the guy passed away and his cousin was living in the property. And his cousin was actually trying to sell the property. But she had no claim or no right to sell the property. And so when he passed away, technically by the laws, they call it the laws of intestacy. So that means you died like intestate, which means without a will, right? And so if there's a will, it has to go through probate, which it can screw a lot of stuff up and it can cost a decent amount of money. But most of the time people die intestate, which is no will. And so if there's no will, then it falls to what's called the laws of intestacy. And a lot of people don't understand what those are, but it's pretty much how I explain it is it's like the presidential succession, right? You know how like you have the president, and then like if the president like passed away, then it goes to the vice president, and then like there's like all these people in line, right? And it's the same thing when intestate. So if I pass away, if I'm not married, then it automatically goes to my kids. And this is based on Tennessee law. It's slight differences, but most states are the same, but there's slight differences. But in Tennessee, if I pass away and I'm not married, all my worldly possessions automatically go to my kid, right? But when it comes out to a hard asset, like it 100% goes to my kid, right? 100%. And so this guy, he had no kids. And so there's another person in line, which was his parents. And his mom was actually still alive when he passed away, but then his mom passed away shortly after he passed away. And so everything went to the sister. And so in this situation, the cousin, she thought she had claim over the property just because she lived there and she was like related to him. It's like, no, the sister actually owns it. And so she actually got us in contact with the sister. And I thought they were like gonna work together and probably like maybe split some money or something like that, because she was like staying in the house, and sister was like, no, she ain't getting nothing. I want everything. I was like, all right, cool. But she's actually the owner of the house, right? And so we ended up in a situation where the lady that was in the property, she would not leave. And we don't like to close on houses unless they're vacant or if there's like a huge spread on it, just because like as soon as we close on it, we start losing money, right? Or I can assign it, but like most buyers, even if you assign it to somebody, most buyers don't want to close on it with somebody in there either, because they're losing money as well, right? And so we're trying to work out a cash for keys situation. When she realized that she was actually going to get evicted, we served her with an eviction notice. It was like, look, you can get cash for keys if you want to. By that time, we had already got the auction postponed, like I want to say twice. And the auction snuck back up on us and we got foreclosed on. And so we ended up losing the deal. And that's how probate and intestacy can get like really tricky. But if the families, man, if they're working all on the same page and everything, like they can be really smooth and really easy to deal with. I mean, actually, one of my biggest deals was the same situation. It was a probate deal, and I think on that deal it was $110,000 assignment fee. This was a couple of years ago, but it was a house that was vacant. It's like a 5-bedroom house in a really good part of town here in Memphis. And I actually, went and talked to a neighbor across the street, and she didn't know the lady, or she knew her, but she didn't have her phone number. And she said, I'm Facebook friends with her, so I can send her a message. And I was like, cool. I was like, will you just like introduce me and say, that you got a guy that stopped by that's interested in buying the house. I could put some cash in her pocket. Wouldn't be, any, like we handle everything. I just need to have a conversation with her. And so she and I told her to make sure she got that lady's phone number. And so she did. And when I first talked to her, she didn't, really want to talk to me or have anything to do with me. And after about a month and a half, we stopped the auction on the house. We put a decent amount of cash in her pocket. It just so happens when I locked it up, I ended up getting a lot of interest on the property. And like this was like pre-pandemic. No, this is actually after the pandemic when the market was going crazy. And a lot of people like really wanted the house. And so we ended up getting, locked it up at like 110 or something like that. And we ended up getting like 220, buyer that came in for 220 on the property. So it was a pretty sweet assignment fee, but it was smooth. It was like really smooth, went through really smooth. And then at the end of it, the lady actually had no money. And so she was, before she didn't want to talk to me. At the end of it, she was like, where'd you come from? like because like she couldn't talk to the mortgage company. It was her mom and her dad that passed away. She had a brother that lived in like Oklahoma, and then she had a stepmom that actually had interest in the property as well. And she was like, my stepmom don't want to have anything to do with it. And so like I had those conversations with those people, which a lot of times is better coming from like a real estate investor anyways, because they know what they're talking about and they can explain stuff better. And we end up getting the deal done.
Love it, man. What's the importance of using a route planner? I love the tools you mentioned before. Which one do you use now, man? Like what's your favorite one? I know the other one was it Route Planner? I think it was called Route Planner, huh?
Oh, you talking about for routing yourself, like door
Yeah.
knocking around
Yeah.
town?
What's the benefits of them? Like I know it saves time, but what are some benefits of using those?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the benefit of using those is say it saves time. I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, if you put if you look up a whole bunch of addresses in town and you just drive to them like one by one without like planning out a route, you'll end up in a situation where, bro, you'll end up driving like 500 miles a day. And so like you use a route planner to pretty much make it where you're on a streamlined route, and you can make it where you leave your house and you hit like the points in the city in the right order, where you don't waste a lot of time driving backwards and forwards around the city, and you'll end up back. You could do like a, what do you call it, like loop, a round trip, right, where you end up right back where you started from, which is where you want to end. But like MapQuest is free. We use MapQuest a lot. A lot of new people is like, look, just go to MapQuest, like, because you don't have to spend any money on it, and it's really easy. You can just copy and paste your addresses in there really quick. But like right now, for me and guys on my team, we use Badger. Badger is really cool because what Badger does, it allows you to put your dates in there. You can put your auction dates in there. You can put, your address, your person's name, and everything like that. And when you pull up that account, like it'll have all the information like right then and there at your fingertips. And so, like, if I don't have like a piece of paper or something that has that person's auction date, like normally when I go to the door, we knock the door, we always have like the information with us, because it's like, hey, I don't know if you know this or not, but your house had popped up on public record for auction. Like, what are you doing to like hinder that? And a lot of people, they try to squirm out of it. It's like, oh, my house is not up for auction. It's like, no, it's right here in the paper. Like, maybe you don't know about it, but like, let me help you stop it, But we have like all the information right there. And then what I like about Badger is it's color coded. A lot of stuff is like color coded, and you can filter out certain things. So like if you went by a house and you could tell if you've been by that house 3 times before, and it's like, all right, cool, we're gonna take a break from that house, let's go to this house. But you could just like, it's really easy, man. You can take your mouse and just like circle a whole area, and you could be like, no, I've been to that one like 5 times, filter those out. I want to do like these 10 houses, and then it'll make the route for you. And it's like 3 clicks and you're out the door.
Love it. You have any advice like setting up a door knocking team, or do you have one, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, man. It's tough. Like right now I have like 3 knockers. And it's the toughest part about like having people knock doors is the consistency with it, because like it takes like most people, they want to get like a guaranteed paycheck by doing a thing, especially these days, just by like sitting in a desk, like doing no physical labor, right? But this requires somebody to drive almost 100 miles on a consistent basis in and around town, like bad areas, good areas, like all kinds of areas. And you're going up randomly knocking on people's doors. So it takes a certain type of person to do it. But like you find that person to do it, but person to consistently do it. Like I've trained so many people how to door knock, and like they'll do it for 2 or 3 weeks and then they fall off. It's so the hardest part is like trying to get somebody to consistently do it, and it's tough. How I get people to door knock for me is pretty much telling people, how I make money, how door knocking is the fastest way to get a deal. I'll I have a lot of social media presence that I do a lot of shorts and reels. But another one of the ways I do it is I go to meetups. I go to meetups, like my local real estate meetups, and I just network and I have conversations with people. Another thing that I'm leaning towards is trying to talk to companies that do door-to-door sales, like your solar companies, trying to find guys that do that. Maybe marketing and saying, hey, look, I got an opportunity that's similar to solar, like sales guy, because they're used to going door to door. And then also like roofing companies do a lot of door knocking. They're used to going door to door. But like even those, like I've had one guy that was interested, and then he kind of shied away from it because like when it's a roofing company or a solar company, the thing that's different the thing that I do different is like usually if it's a solar company, you're knocking every house in that neighborhood, right? And so it's like we're going literally door to door, right? And it's like, oh, we might skip that door. We're going to the next door. We're going to the one across the street. When you're knocking doors for foreclosures, like you might have one, maybe two in that neighborhood, but it's all in the car, right? You're pulling up and then you're getting out, and you're knocking the door, and then you're going to a different part of town, right? And so like that's the difference in it. And so like a lot of people are just not used to that, but it's it's hard to like grasp like why people like make so much money when they door knock. Well, it's because nobody else wants to do it for one, so your competition is small, but like it's literally the fastest way to get a deal. And I tell people that all the time. Like your whole reason that you're going on foreclosures because like those people have the highest pain point, and you can get in front of those people like the fastest. Like literally, like I said, 1 out of every 20 conversations. Like if you cold call, it's literally it takes you $800 to $1,000 to get, one solid conversation. Bro, we can literally like have 20 conversations, knocking doors, and get a contract.
Yeah. And it's easy to say no on the phone, right?
It's easy to say no on the phone. I mean, bro, people tell you no, to your face. You knock on the door, they'll slam the door in your face and stuff. It's just, I don't know, man. Like for me, I gravitated towards it because I was a bartender for a long time, and I had like, different mannerisms and stuff. I was really good in person, not really a person that was into cold calling and all that stuff. And so that's why I gravitated towards like, door knocking. And I found out, man, it really works. And because like you end up getting deals that nobody else can get because you're getting a hold of that person that nobody else can get a hold of, like your deals, they end up being like really, really, really like decent. Like the one I just sold one last week that came from a door knock. Dakota knocked on the door. He knocked on it, I want to say he knocked on it 4 times. And the guy never actually came to the door. Like he never came to the door. But Dakota knocked on it 4 times. And the 4th time that he knocked on it, and then he put a note on the door, the guy called him back later. And he set an appointment up for me. And so that's what I got to do. They'll go knock a door, have a conversation, and then they'll tee me up for an appointment or a phone call with that person. And I'll go over options with them and try to push them to the close. But this guy, we had like multiple conversations over I want to say it was like maybe 3 conversations after he teed me up for the phone call. And he wanted to do a loan modification. So he went for one, got denied. He was like, yeah, I'm just going to sell. I was like, all right, cool. And so we ended up going through that, but I asked the guy, how much are you trying to put in your pocket? Like, what are you trying to accomplish here? Like monetary wise. He told me, he was like, man, honestly, if I can get like anywhere from like 45 to 60 in my pocket, somewhere up in there, I'll be happy. It's like, all right, cool. I knew how much he owed. He owed, I think it was like 110, 116. It was like 116. I don't know the exact numbers. I forgot. But like I ended up buying a house for like 180. He ended up putting like 57K in his pocket. And the ARV, like as is condition, was like 275. Right. But this came from like knocking on the door. Right. We knocked on the door. We end up getting that deep house. 180, 275. That's a decent spread. So like I signed it to myself for like 15. And then I just hoteled it. I just, went in there and did a really light rehab on it. Like I think I replaced the hot water heater. Me and my son were over there. We kind of, trashed it out, hit some stuff in some dumpsters, and I did some spot painting and then I paid my wife to go over there and just like mop all the floors and clean, the kitchen and stuff like that up to make it look nice. And so we just put it back on the market. And I had a couple of concessions where they were griping about the fence in the backyard, so I fixed the fence. It ended up costing me like $1,000, but it was a decent deal. We put it on the market, had an offer, full price offer in like 5 days. That ended up falling through due to the buyer's financing and all that, and so we wasted about a month. We put it right back on the market. Like 2 days later, we had another full price offer, and so there you go, Bob's your uncle.
Love it. You mentioned notes. So on your leave behinds, is it just a sticky note, or what do you feel that's most effective? Like an actual printed paper that says stuff, or just a sticky note with handwritten?
Man, honestly, the like really official stuff, like it doesn't work. Yeah, I mean, obviously it works, but it's not as effective as like something that's like really personable. Like it's like it's too clinical, too churched up, too like business. And like I think so. I have two different approaches to this. So like when you go to a door, nobody answers the door. For me, I like leaving a note, just to have somebody like call it back because it's like, and I don't put my name on it or anything, just so people like curious, like who is this, leaving notes or whatever, like anything to get that person to call me or I have a conversation with them. Because like when they call me, even if they're not interested in talking to me or whatever at that point in time, if it's a month before their auction, like it's a number capture. Now I can continue to market to that person because I have that person's phone number that's in that house, right? Like remember, I say a lot of times the person that lives in the house is not the person that's getting foreclosed on, right? But now I have that person's number. And so like even if they've gotten a burner phone, I have their new number. And so now I can continue to market to them like maybe once a week or something like that. I'll give them a call and try to, talk to them, or I'll send them a text. It's like, hey, look, we can still help you out, whatever like that. But like when you actually have a conversation like at the door, and people are willing to talk to you and you want to leave your your number or something like that behind, I think that's an opportunity to actually like leave something that's like really official or a little bit more like churched up to let them know that you are a person that can help them out. You know, something, business card, something like that, that actually like marketing material that has your name, maybe your company logo. It just depends on how you want to do it, but you definitely want to be a little bit more official. I think after you have that initial conversation, it's like, yeah, I am the person to help you out. We're setting up something right now where what we're leaving behind after we talk to that homeowner, not before. Like we don't get an answer, it's just still your normal sticky note. But like after we talk to the homeowner and it's a decent conversation, when we leave them with marketing material, it'll have like maybe like a scan me on there, and it leads to a playlist on YouTube of like seller testimonials of people that we've helped out just by having a conversation with them, either by buying their house or not. Like I've had so many conversations with people, man, that like it's I don't even buy their house and we help them out. I had this guy that lives in a suburb here. I'm actually reaching out to him later on the day to see if he's willing to get on camera with me and talk about it. But his daughter got murdered, and his daughter got murdered by the daughter's baby daddy, right? And so like this guy's he's got two grandkids that he ended up getting into this like year-long custody battle with the other grandparents over the custody of the grandkids. Because obviously the dad's incarcerated because of the murder, and this happened in this guy's home. And so he's been through this custody battle like all year. And this is why this guy's behind on his mortgage and facing foreclosure. And so I remember having the first conversation with the guy, sat down in his kitchen counter, and the two granddaughters are behind me, and the mom's doing their hair. They're retired, and like both of them have had to go back to work. It's a really, really nice couple, and they're just like, man, we're just trying to figure it out. And so I had a conversation with them, told him a couple of things. We sat down and talked about an hour and a half. Really nice guy. And due to the things that I told him, he was able to like get his auction postponed and stopped. It ended up like what I didn't know was when I talked to him, he had two loans on the house. I thought he only had one loan, but he had two loans. And it was the second loan that was getting foreclosed on. His second position was foreclosing on him. And he called me after he had already solved his problem. He called me the day before his auction. He was like, Greg, we screwed up. It was the wrong loan. And I was like, well, what do you mean? He said, man, it was the second position loan that was foreclosing. The auction's tomorrow. I don't know what to do. He was like, help. And I was like, look, man, I got two things for you. And I was like, the first thing you're not really going to do, and I'll have that conversation in just a second, but I need you to try to do the first thing. And the first thing is you need to hang out with me. He was actually at work. I was like, you need to go to your broom closet and you need to call that lender. And I was like, do you remember when we had our first conversation on sitting at your kitchen counter? He was like, yeah. I was like, do you remember how you almost made me cry? And he was like, yeah. I was like, I need you to tell that story to that lender exactly how you told it. And so he hung up the phone and he called me back, like, I think it was an hour and a half later. And he said that, man, like the lady that was on the phone, they were having some kind of meeting or something. It was a small lender. And they put him on speaker while they were sitting at the table. And like a couple of ladies had to leave the room because he was telling the story so vividly about like what happened to his daughter and why he was in that situation. And they stopped his auction immediately. And he called me back, and the guy was crying. He was just like, man, I have no idea where you came from. But like, these are like real people, real homeowners in really like dire situations that either I can help by purchasing their home, or I can help with like having a conversation with, because of the wealth of knowledge that I have about their situation. And I believe like firmly that we are here for somebody else. Like, I truly believe that. Like, you're not here for yourself. You are here for another human being. And so like we're just here to be of service. And so I try to figure out different ways that I can be of service. Like, a lot of times I can't do a physical thing for a homeowner. Like, I'll have like one or two that I'll go above and beyond for. But I can't do a lot of physical stuff for a lot of homeowners. But like, just because I have the knowledge where I can point them in the right direction, you know, I've helped a lot of homeowners stay in their houses that way.
It's got to make you feel good too, right? Like after you helped that guy, it had to do something to you, right? Like you felt good.
Oh, for sure, man. It's like food for your soul. I mean, 1,000%, 1,000%.
So due to diligence, right? Like doing your due diligence. How do you decide if you're going to purchase the deal, and what are some things that could come up where you're just like, I can't purchase it, I don't want to purchase it?
I mean, it's a lot of different factors. It just depends on, like, you know, if it's you always go for cash first. I always go for cash first. And in a lot of situations, the cash deals don't work just because of they don't have enough equity, or the repairs are too high, or something to that effect. A lot of homeowners, they're still kind of delusional on like how much they can get from their house, especially since the market was so high last year. It's a lot of buyers have like tightened up. Just like the guy I'm calling here in a couple of hours, he's trying to get 235 for his property. Buyer came in and was like, yeah, we'll give you 235. And I straight up told him, this was a couple of weeks ago. I told him, I said, man, I have no idea how somebody's paying 235 for this house. He was like, yeah, well, he's paying. I was like, man, you need to make sure this guy's putting up a decent amount of earnest money, all the things. And, we followed up with him, and he was like, yeah, man, he can't close on the property. And it's because the ARV on it's 270, and that's one of the defining factors. The guy needs repairs. The ARV is 270. Like, there's no meat on the bone for anybody who buys the thing cash. The only person that can buy that house is somebody who's literally trying to dump money, right? Like, I just need to like put my money somewhere. I'm trying to depreciate, off my taxes, and I just have like too much money. And so the other things we look at, like for creative deals, is like, is there any equity? Is there no equity? And the main things are like, how much are the arrears? Like, if the arrears are like way too much, it completely kills the deal. Just for a simple fact that like people, like if they've already done a loan modification, we can't help them with those. Like, so it'll kill the deal. Like this guy, he's down like $30,000. It's $30,000, but the ARV is 270. And if the ARV is 270, that means if we do a wrap or something like that on it, like nobody's going to come in like more than $30,000. So like, there's no spread. There's no way to, make money right out the back on it. And so those are the things we kind of look at to make sure we're in a good position. And also like the monthly payment. The monthly bit, like, it's got to cash flow. It's got to be in a situation where we can put somebody in there and make, at least a little small spread on there as well. So all those things come into play. And that's primarily what we look at. Interest rate's a big one too. And you see a lot of really small interest rates from the past couple of years where people are like defaulting on those mortgages. So those are prevalent.
Right. Going back to like door knocking, before you put in an address to your router, do you look to see if it's vacant and if they have a different mailing address?
No, I don't waste time on that stuff, man. I mean, like, so I'm not a data guy. I let people know that straight up front. It's like people try to get in the weeds about different things with me, like with the CRM, like how, like how many times this is texting this person and like all this stuff. And it's like, bro, like that stuff does not get me excited at all. It really doesn't. Like, I'm like bird's eye view. You could tell me, but like all that other stuff, like the whole reason I made like a decent amount of money when I started knocking doors is because I literally like went to this website, copy and pasted the stuff into a spreadsheet, and I hit print. Right. And then the next thing I did was I copy and pasted it into a router. I hit enter, and then like I was out the door in like 20 minutes. And I just started knocking doors. I just started taking action. And then like just stumbling into problems and stuff. Like, I'm not like, here's the thing, like right now, what we do is like if a guy goes to a house and it's vacant, Like we'll have a market as vacant so we don't go back to that house. We'll have a market as vacant in the actual software that we use for Badger. He'll tag it as vacant. We don't put it back on the route, but we'll send it to another guy who likes to cold call because I hate cold calling, and he'll deep dive and like cold call these properties to see if he can find a homeowner. That's what we do. Right. And then if he finds them and he has a conversation, what's up?
No, go ahead. Finish, brother. My bad.
Well, I'll say if he finds me, he has a conversation with him, he'll team me up for a phone call and I'll see if I can get the deal closed. Right. But like as far as like knowing if that house is vacant or something like that before, and honestly, I wouldn't even trust the data if I got it. Right.
Right. So what are some do's and don'ts when approaching someone's house? I mean, like if they're gonna go door knocking today and it's their first time, what's some advice you'd give them, like some approaches?
Just be respectful. One of the biggest things that plays a lot is like you're walking up to somebody's house and it's like, I try not to walk through somebody's yard. Like that's a big thing. Like it's like if somebody's looking out their blinds and because they heard a car door shut or something like that, like, and this person's like walking up. If you saw somebody just like walking through your yard, like I own this, piece, is like, bro, like you're already setting like a bad. But if you see somebody like make the effort to like walk along the path, like go out of their way to walk along the path, kind of makes you feel like that person is respecting like your home. But like I always make sure I use like pathways and stuff. I always park on the street. And then like when you knock on the door, you want to make sure that you stand like at least 10 to 15 feet away from the door. A lot of things I like to do is like I try not to stand directly in front of the door or stand like kind of off. That's just like a safety thing for me because like I'm not going to go into that. But like I turn my side to the door or my back to it. And like I'll pretend like I'm looking down the street or I'm waving at a neighbor or something like that. And the whole reason I do that is like I don't want to be squared up with the door. I don't want somebody to perceive me as like a threat, like I can bomb rush them at the door. Like I'm trying to seem as less threatening as like physically possible. And I got all that stuff from like people that like your roofers and your pest control guys. Like they do a lot of door-to-door sales, and that's what they do to not seem like a threat. But yeah, that's what I do to go up to the door. And then, after that, it's like, I'm just trying to I have an elevator pitch and I'm like, hey, look, and I throw it right out there. In some states, they can't do this. I know like in Maryland, you can't even approach somebody that's in, foreclosure, but like I throw it right out there. It's like, hey, look, I don't know if you know this or not. Like, and I apologize to them. Look, I'm really sorry, for interrupting your day. The whole reason I'm stopping by, like, I don't know if you know this or not. I've actually talked to like 10 people a day that had no idea, but your property had popped up on public record for auction. Were you aware of that? And then you get a multitude of answers. And my goal after that is to try to get to a normal conversation with the human being, just like really normal, like just me at a grocery store talking to somebody in line in front of me as quick as possible. Right. And the way I do that is by telling third party stories of other people that I've talked to. And after you do it for so long, even if you've never done it before, like the more you do it, the better you get and the more stories that you collect. I guarantee you, if you go out and you knock, 30, 45 doors, like you're going to run into like a conversation with at least one person who's going to tell you some gut-wrenching story. And like, you might not be able to help that person, but what you do is you take that story and you tell that story to the next person that you're having a conversation with. Like literally, this is the situation I just left. Right. Like I saved this family back in the summertime from foreclosure. They were 2 days out. Mom, dad passed away, multiple siblings. One got locked up all the way in like north, East Tennessee. And they were 2 days out from auction. We got the auction postponed. It was like him, his baby mama, and like 3 kids living in the house. No electricity, no water, no gas, right? And it was the middle of the summer, so no air. Like really messed up situation. And we saved them foreclosure. I think the family collectively put like 30 grand in their pocket. They were ecstatic, they were happy. And so like when you have that win, or you have somebody that's going through a situation and you didn't figure out like how to help them, you can still tell that story and it helps get the walls down. I always tell people like people are generally like nice to another human being. Like if you walk in, like I walked into a gas station earlier when I drove to a property about an hour north of Memphis. I walked in the gas station. That guy before me, he just like instinctually like held the door open for me. That's what we do for another human being. It's just like common courtesy. So there's like little things that we do as humans that's like, like subconscious and unconscious like actions. And so like if somebody's telling a story about like somebody being in a really tough situation, right? Like 9 times out of 10, that person either waits for you to get done or like they're sympathetic to like your plight or what's going on in that situation, at least for that moment. And so like you can use those stories to help you further a conversation with that person. Right. A lot of times I'd say something about somebody passing away. I'm like, yeah, well, this family I just helped, like their mom passed away and they didn't know how to talk to the mortgage company. And like you telling that story, like it might click in their heads, like, man, that's my problem. So this guy knows how to solve that problem. Right. And so like, and dude, like I don't get everybody. Like every door that I knock on, like it's not a deal, right? Like that's not how it works. It's just that like when you cold call, you get all these no's. You get like all these no's, all these no's. It's the same thing with door knocking, except for you just get to the yes faster. That's the only difference, you know.
So tell us like a crazy story. I don't know if you have one of some crazy stuff that happened when you were door knocking, like your craziest story.
Craziest story from door knocking, man. Honestly, I don't have a super. I'm trying to think of one. Well, I did. I had one I did like I think it was last year, where I ended up getting. I left a note on the door when I was out knocking. She called me back later on that night, and I ended up getting 2 houses from this lady. But the lady, the actual seller was in a nursing home, and I was dealing with her daughter, and she was living in that house. No electricity, no food, no any of that. And so I worked out a good situation. Ended up meeting her mom at the nursing home. She told me the one thing she was concerned about was her grandfather clock. I was like, all right, cool. Worked out a purchase price on the house. That was cool. And then they were like, we got this other house as well. And I was like, all right, cool. We're working on that as well. And so what I did was I set her up in a hotel. I think it was probably just like 2, maybe 3 blocks away, something like that. Maybe a mile away. I don't know. But I set her up in a hotel and I was like, look, that way you can charge your phone. You have power. They got a little kitchenette that you can like cook stuff in. You'll be good. Go ahead and do this closing. And it was like everything was like on the up and up and hunky dory. And then like the shit hit the fan. Excuse my French, but like this is how it went down. It was like I ended up getting a call from the hotel, like saying that like she was doing stuff or she had like people coming in and out of the property or out of the hotel room. And then like on the other house that we were dealing with, we were going through title and escrow. It ended up like coming into play that her stepdad had passed away. That's why they fell behind on this mortgage on this first house. But her stepdad had passed away, but her stepdad actually adopted her daughters, like the lady that's in the hotel who I'm actually dealing with, because the mom is in a nursing home. This will get tricky, but her daughters were adopted by the stepdad who passed away. And so technically her daughters were her stepsisters. One of them was in jail and the other one was like in Baltimore somewhere. And I had to like deal with these people on the second house. And it ended up being this like crazy thing where she like disappeared on me. And like I had to go like sit at the property and like wait on her. And like she came by to get the mail one day. She wasn't answering my phone calls, and I like chased her down. And I was like, "What's going on? We're gonna lose your house." And we ended up getting that one closed. And then like her daughter got out of jail, so I didn't have to find her. She ended up finding me. This lady, she was like calling me for Uber rides like every night. Like it was just wild. It was all the things. Like she broke into the house that I had just bought. Like we bought 2 houses from her. And so the first one we closed because that's the only house she knew. She like broke in and tried to find like all this paperwork, but we had already like cleaned out the house. And so we had to replace the back one. It was just like this whole like crazy thing. But we ended up buying both of the houses. Everybody got paid in the situation. And I'm reaching back out to a lot of my sellers to get testimonials because I hadn't got them. And I realize how important they are to show like credibility to like new homeowners. And so she's on my list to give a call to. And so let's see if she wants to do a testimonial. It should be interesting.
How do you approach them? Speaking on the testimonials, like, so if you don't, that's mostly when you buy the house, or probably not when you buy the house, like when you just help them, right? You get the testimonial.
Yeah. I mean, what I've started doing now is like when I do a closing or something like that, what I'll set the stage for the testimonial, like towards the end of the transaction or something like that. It's like, hey, look, everything's looking good. If I come through with everything that I said I'm gonna come through, just do me this huge favor. Do you mind doing a testimonial with me? Like I actually had a conversation with a family that's in Nashville yesterday, Hispanic family, and this actually happens like often, like where people will like scam Hispanic families out of unlike rent to own situations and stuff like that because there's a language barrier. And so like I was talking to their child, and the conversation I had with him was like, look, like I really don't have to be on the phone with you giving you like free information, because he didn't know who the foreclosure attorney was. They have no idea why they're getting foreclosed on because somebody scammed them. And I was like, look, here's a foreclosure attorney. This will, get you like set up and where the information of where you need to know to pay the money to, or how much you owe, and like all this and what's going on. And I just told the guys like, look, like I just gave you a lot of, information. I like getting this in my heart. I was like, look, just do me a favor. If this helps you out in any shape, form, or fashion, like, do you mind just doing like a small, like 30-second testimonial? It was like Greg Clark came out of nowhere and gave me free information. And he was like, yeah, man, absolutely. He was like, I'm super happy that you got on the phone with me and helped me out, because we had no idea what was going on. Like, just like people taking that extra step to ask for it. I think that's a big thing, which I didn't do before, but I do it all the time now.
And then you like put them on your website or show sellers
Yeah.
or how
Yeah. So like, one of the things I'm about to start doing is doing some Facebook ads. And we're going to use a lot of the testimonials for those. And we're going to start, we're going to have a whole page of testimonials on the site, where I'm going to have somebody redo my site. So
love it, man. So yeah. What are you looking for right now? I know you purchase in Tennessee. Is there any other markets? If somebody wants to send you a deal or something, so you could like give them like your buy box or what you're looking for?
Yeah, I mean, here in Memphis is primarily where I'm focusing on like holding my properties, and the reason why is because like I'm so analog, and this is something I'm trying to break out of. But I'll do a deal anywhere. We just did a deal in Arkansas literally like last week. Where we partnered with some people, and I'll assign a deal anywhere. But and I have one in Jackson, which is an hour north of Memphis. I don't mind buying in Nashville, but I try to keep it local and like very, very close. Proximity to like where I live as far as like ownership, unless I'm partnering on that deal with somebody who's local. And the reason why is like, I just got to have resources in the area. Like this morning, man, somebody left the fireplace on, in a town like north of Memphis, an hour. And it's like, where I got nobody to call. I got to go up there and turn the fireplace off. You know what I'm saying? And so, which, that just kind of comes part with growth. And it's part of my growth as far as like not being so analog and hands-on, and being like a little bit more, part of the digital age where you can reach out to people anywhere for a helping hand. And so,
dude, AI, man, how do you feel about AI in this business world right now?
Oh man, I love it. AI is just a tool to help us do, more of what we're trying to do, at a faster rate. And a lot of people are, afraid of it. And, a lot of people, they're, kind of skittish of it. For me, I look at it as like, you need to embrace it, because if you don't embrace it and learn about it as fastly and quickly as possible, you're going to be left behind. And a lot of people say, well, it's going to be the end all be all of, all the world as we know it. It was like, man, if it is like, what does it matter anyways? Right. It's just like, might as well get what you can while you're here. But I look at it as a hammer, man. I look at it as a hammer, or like a nail gun, or a ratchet. Like you can tell like I'm blue collar, right? Like my whole family's mechanics, and that's all we do. But I mean, it just helps you do what you're trying to do more efficiently, faster, and better, right? With less energy, right? Found like AI software that literally will chop up, these long videos that I do, and give me like reels like really quickly. It's like, do you know how long it takes me to edit a video? It's like, oh my God.
It takes a while. I know. You use Office Pro or no?
Yeah, Office it's like, there's one called Office, there's one called like, I think it's like Munch or Munchin or something like that.
Yeah, I like that one too. One of my favorites right now is Submagic. But it doesn't break them all down. Submagic, you have to cut it down and put it in there. But Submagic's really good. It's really good, man.
Yeah. I found I think it was Opus, like it was like last year sometime, and it was I think it was still like on the beta deal or something like that. Like it was free, whatever it was. And I think they finally opened it up where they do price. But I mean, it's like, bro, it saves me so much time. Like it'll give me like 28 like clips, and it's like, bro, I was trying to make all these shorts, and it's like, yeah, it's love. So I love AI. I'll embrace it.
Puts the emojis in there and everything. It's like,
oh yeah, like the whole deal. I was like, man, this AI generator made the short better than I would have. Like
right.
that's the crazy part about it, because I'm not an editor. Like, and that's the thing that I was saying earlier is like, like I think it's beneficial for a lot of people to do the tough thing of starting out like remote with their investing. And the reason why is because like if you do the hard things in life, life will be easy, right? Like if you do the hard things in life, life will be easy. But if you do the easy things, life will be hard. And I've done the easy thing, which is like everything's close to me, like it's easy to get to, like I can do it myself if like this person like falters. But if you learn how to do stuff like remote and like from the beginning, like it's super challenging, super difficult, but like the skill set that you end up picking up right off the bat because of it is like delegation and like learning how to rely on people and put pressure on the people that you're relying on to do the things that you need them to do. And like you pick up that skill very early on. For me, I'm trying to like rewire my brain to think that way when I've been this way for so long. It's like so hands-on, right? And if you started out that way, like you've already surpassed that problem or issue, So
true. What's the best way somebody can reach out to you, man?
Honestly, the best way is like my Instagram handle is right there on my name. It's Greg Clark 901. Just send me a DM. That's the quickest and fastest way. I mean, you can go to Facebook. You can send me a DM on Facebook as well. I answer both of those. But anybody got a foreclosure they're trying to get postponed or stopped, I mean, anywhere, I'll jump on the phone with your seller. I mean, I was on the phone all day yesterday with people's sellers all over the country. I mean, it happens all the time. Happy to help out. I'll JV. I'll do a deal with anybody. Just happy to help.
I love it, man. Hey, I appreciate you coming on. Before we end, I always ask my guests this question, man. What is your 5 top books that changed your life that you recommend people to read?
5 top books. I mean, obviously, man, Rich Dad Poor Dad's like on the top of like everybody's list. That wouldn't change my life. I started reading that one back, and man, I think it was like when I was like 19. I just had my kid. The other one is You Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. The dude's a monster. The dude's a beast. And I think like a lot of people, they go, well, I don't want to listen to David Goggins just because he's too intense and all that. And it's like, man, like you don't have to be David Goggins. Like he's just helping the growth of your mind, right? Like he's just like pushing you forward. Another one is a one-page marketing plan. That one's pretty good. I'm actually reading it right now. It's really interesting.
That's crazy. Hey, crazy story. Yeah. That's the one I'm reading right now too on my ebook. I swear, bro, it's good.
Yeah,
it comes
it's good.
With templates and stuff. It's
right.
Cool.
Yeah. No, it gets me more from my because understanding like how to market without like having too much like complexity to it. Right, is the biggest thing. Is because like I'm not this like college grad in high school and or like going to college to learn all this stuff, bro. It's like I never went to college, right? Like I went straight to the workforce. So, a lot of that stuff gets like way too complex and trying to learn. And so like, I like that one a lot. There's another book that I read, it was a while ago. I want to say it's called As a Man Thinketh. It's a really short read and I can't remember the author. I want to say that's the name of it, As a Man Thinketh. As a Man Thinketh. It's really short read, but it's As a Man Thinketh, like so shall he be. And it's pretty much like what a man thinks about all day, like it's going to manifest in his life.
James
really
Allen.
Cool. Yeah, that sounds about right. I have to go through like my ebooks, but it's really short, short and to the point, and it's good, man. It's really good. And then like one of my favorites. Yep, that's it. It's really short. Yeah, that was really good. And it pretty much just says, man, what a man thinks about all day is he's going to manifest in his life, right? And I truly believe that just because, like, I had, like, I told this to my son, like, so I own a photo booth rental company here in Memphis. We're running a lot of photo booths and, for weddings, parties, and stuff like that. And I came up with this idea for like this trailer, this photo booth trailer, right? And it was going to be different than anybody else's. And I was like, man, people, instead of like getting in a trailer, they can get in it, or they can stand on the side of it, and they can take pictures as like a group. I was like, it's going to be great. And like, I drew this thing up on this piece of paper, right? Like I drew it up, I was thinking about it all the time. And after, I think it was about 6 months, like the trailer was literally in my backyard, where there's a door on the side of it that opens up, and there's a camera where people can stand on the side of it and take photos, and they can get in the inside of it simultaneously and take photos. It's literally like what I thought of in my head that I put down on a piece of paper that I manifested in like the real world. And
That's
it's
crazy.
like as a man think of, so shall he be. So like you literally, like what you think about, you can bring into the world, as long as you think about it enough. And so I think that's pretty powerful. And another book, I'm trying to think, as what is how to win friends and influence people. That one's always a favorite. I'll go back and read that one every once in a while. But I think my all-time favorite book is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. That one is, man,
Powerful.
it's the older you get and you go back and reread that book, like you just start noticing things. It's like watching a movie. You ever watch a movie when you're a kid and then you watch it like 10 years later and you're like, damn, like this movie's so different. And it's like, but it's not the movie that changed, it's your brain has changed, right? Like a lot of stuff that was in the movie before, your brain wasn't ready for. Like you now you get that anecdote, now you get that joke, now you see what's actually going on between the couple and their relationship. And it's just like I read it a couple months ago. I was listening to it, in the car. It's like I really listen to the radio. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and ebooks and different things like that all the time. And I was listening to it, and it said that, like, generally a man will not make the most successful man will be in his life is between like ages 35 to 60, 65. That's like when a man's going to be the most successful in his life, like between those ages. And like when I turned, I think it was 36, I ended up having like 4 companies. And it was just like, damn, like
Yeah.
it's some truth in there, man. It's a lot of nuggets. It's some really good stuff in there. And I love reading that one and seeing my journey and how my brain grows to perceive that information. So,
What kind of podcast you be watching, man?
man, honestly, right now, I listen to a lot of honestly, I stay in a lot of sub 2 stuff. Like we have so much gold inside of sub 2 that I love listening to Pace and Pace, kind of interview. Like we just did one on like infinite banking not too long ago. Went back and watched those on my drive up this morning. Those are really good. But real estate disruptors, it's always a pretty cool one. And then I like a lot of Alex Hormozy. He did one with Ed Milet, which is one of the best like keynote speakers that I've heard in a long time, who gets a lot of emotion and stuff involved in his talks. And so they did a podcast not too long ago. That was pretty good. And then I like Earn Your Leisure. Earn Your Leisure is a pretty cool podcast, and they do everything finance from real estate to like business to just like how to like budget your own money and stuff like that. And that one's pretty cool.
Bro, I wanted to tell you too, man. I like what you're doing, how you're teaching your kid, like, you know what I mean, what you're doing, so he can like kind of move it forward and like use
Oh
that.
yeah, did you see my reel with
Yeah,
my son?
I like that,
Yeah,
man.
no, yeah, no, it's pretty tight, man. He's a hell of a kid. He's it's monkey see, monkey do, and like one of the things I've always done with him, like growing up, is like it's like if you do the hard things, life will be easy, and if you do the easy things, life will be hard. So like I always did the hard things with him, like had the hard conversations, when there were things that I know that he shouldn't have, like just for instance, like, so this was years ago. I'm talking about when he was like maybe 10 or 11 or something like that. I remember his aunt, she got a new iPhone, and she was like, well, I love my nephew. I'll just give him my phone. And I remember she gave him the phone, and I threw the biggest fit about it. And, everybody made a big deal about it, but I was like, no, my son's not going to have that phone. And they didn't understand why. And I was like, because he didn't earn it. Like, you can't give somebody $1,000 phone if they didn't earn it. Right. Like, I think at the time the phone was like $700 or something like that. But like, it was like little things like that I would like upset the status quo of like the norm of like what should happen. That is the reason why my son is the person he is today. Like my son, he gets overtime. He goes to U of M and he wants to learn real estate. Like he wants to go out. Like when I go out door knocking, he's like, "Can I tag along with you today?" And I sit there and I show him HUD statements and stuff like that. And I'm really transparent on like how I make money. And like when I get, a check in, it's like, all right, cool. This is how I made it. Like, this is why, we made this much on this deal. I was looking to make this much, but this is why we didn't. And so it's actually really cool, man. It's actually really cool. It's like monkey see, monkey do. And so he's into the entrepreneurial space and he wants to learn how to make money. And so we're gonna have a conversation. Yeah, we're gonna have a conversation about infinite baking here in the next month or so. And so because he's got a little bit of cash in his account, and we're about to start building some wealth as a family, and seeing how many people we can help with it. So
yeah, I feel like a lot of parents, some parents, not all the parents, will like get their kids a video game system and just kind of like, stay busy and don't teach them the real world stuff. So I like that, man.
Yeah. I mean, I've been guilty of it, man. But I mean, they want the video games and stuff like that. But he hadn't wanted any of that stuff in a long time. He barely plays a video game these days. I mean, sometimes like when they went on what was it, Christmas break or whatnot. A lot of people they like to goof off during the holidays and different things like that, which is cool, man. But like he doesn't spend a lot of his time on games and stuff. He went to work. I think it was 2 days ago because he works at Chick-fil-A. He's been working there since he was 14. And they called him, and he came in, he went in a little early, and then he ended up calling me and his mom. I think it was like 11 at night. He was like, look, they got this new shift working overnight. It's going to be me and one other person here. And so I'm going to stay and hang out. So then he ended up working till like 6 a.m. Like that's the type of person he is. He wants to work more. And what I'm trying to get him to understand is it's like, I like it when you're young to do the physical work. I like that. I like, I think physical work builds like character and it humbles you. My personal opinion, because I did a lot of like physical work when I was a kid. But I think one of the things that also simultaneously does, if you don't prepare your kid's mind for it, is it cripples you into thinking that you have to do everything yourself when you don't. Like, and that's part of what I'm dealing with right now is like, learning how to delegate and then like use other people to help me out. And then both of us get paid. Right. And so like, that's a big struggle with me. And so, but I love the physicality of work because I honestly believe it builds character and it humbles you. And so the older you get, it's like, I'm planting those seeds right now with them. And I think it's going to be awesome to see the type of person and type of man he grows into. Cause he's like, bro, I'll go out and door knock. It was like, I'll door knock all day if I can. I was like, bro, like most people won't do that, So he's awesome. He's an awesome kid. So
right. Hey, I appreciate you coming on, man. You dropped a lot of gems, and
yeah, man. I appreciate you having me, Justin. And man, you got my number, man. Call me at any time you need me. I'm just a phone call away, bro.
Hey, I appreciate you, and I'll be hitting you up on some foreclosure stuff. Y'all should too, as well. And y'all have a good night. Good day.
Later, y'all.
Later.